3,000 years ago, one of the most epic battles in history took place. On one side stood a massive giant who was a staggering 9 feet tall. His weapons were massive, and his fighting capabilities were unmatched. On the other side, a humble shepherd who was just a mere boy with no combat experience. It seems like an uneven match, right? Well, think again, because this young shepherd had a secret weapon, one that would prove deadly. But how did this young boy find himself fighting for his life in such a dangerous situation? Get ready to witness this incredible story, where a single twist of fate would change everything. It all started in the heart of ancient Israel. During a dark period in history, the Israelites found themselves in a daunting situation. Their enemy, the Philistines, were a strong and battle-hardened nation. These Philistines had settled along the coastal regions of Canaan, and were known for their advanced weaponry, skilled warriors, and their long-standing rivalry with the Israelites. The Israelites, on the other hand, were not so fearsome. They were a nation with a rich history, led by a series of judges and prophets. And at this particular moment, they lacked a unified central leadership, and their military strength was nothing in comparison to the mighty Philistine army. But the Israelites had a secret weapon up their sleeve that would soon come to light. It was in this midst of this tense atmosphere that the legendary battle between David and Goliath would unfold. The fate of the Israelites, their freedom, and their faith were all hanging in the balance as they faced the daunting challenge presented by the Philistine army and their formidable champion, Goliath. The Israelite army, outnumbered and outarmed, stood frozen in fear as they looked at the size of the army they faced. Then, in a momentous moment, the Philistine champion called Goliath stepped forward and towered over the Israelites, striking fear into their hearts. Goliath, who was draped in formidable armor and armed to the teeth, made even the most fearsome Israelite look small. His booming voice resonated across the battlefield as he taunted the Israelites. Challenging them in the name of the Philistine god, he shouted, "Choose you a man and let him come down to me. If he is able to fight with me and kill me, then we will be your servants. But if I prevail against him and kill him, then you shall be our servants and serve us." These words were like a dagger to the Israelites' morale. They felt the weight of the challenge, a challenge that seemed impossible to answer. The fear in their hearts grew stronger with each passing moment, and the question loomed large. Who among them would dare to stand against this behemoth of a man and face a certain death? The answer would surprise not only the Philistines, but the Israelite army as well. You see, the challenger came not from one of the mighty warriors within the Israelite army, but from a young boy with no previous combat experience. His name was David, a young shepherd from Bethlehem, and unlike the battle-hardened soldiers around him, David was not a warrior by trade. He was a humble shepherd who spent his days tending to his father's sheep. Yet he was destined for greatness. David's presence on the battlefield was no accident. He had been anointed by the prophet Samuel and chosen by God for a divine purpose. As the youngest son of his father, he had come to the battlefield not as a soldier but as a messenger, delivering supplies to his brothers who served in the Israelite army. David's arrival was providential, for it was his faith and unwavering belief in God that would change the course of history. When he heard the taunts of Goliath and witnessed the fear in the eyes of his fellow Israelites, something stirred within him. He could not stand idly by while God's people cowered in fear, and so he decided to act. Armed with only a slingshot and 5 smooth stones, he volunteered to fight Goliath, the giant, in a one-on-one battle. On one side stood Goliath, a behemoth of a human, over 9 feet tall, encased in a suit of armor that seemed impenetrable. His spear alone was as massive as a weaver's beam, and his shield-bearer walked before him. He was the embodiment of brute strength and intimidation. The Philistines roared in anticipation of victory. On the other side stood David, a mere shepherd, his stature dwarfed by Goliath's imposing presence. He refused the armor and weapons offered by his commander, King Saul, and instead chose to carry his shepherd's staff and a simple sling. It was a remarkable sight, a young boy facing the most fearsome giant in the nation. Certainly, this would be an easy victory for Goliath, or so it seemed. As the tension mounted, Goliath's taunts continued. He once again proclaimed, "Am I a dog, that you come to me with sticks?" The Philistine giant saw David as a mere annoyance, an insect to be crushed. But David's response was filled with the power of God, stating, "You come to me with a sword, with a spear, and with a javelin. But I come to you in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied." With those words, David swung his sling, releasing a single smooth stone. It whirred through the air, guided by divine purpose, and struck Goliath in the forehead with deadly precision. Goliath, the mighty giant, fell to the ground, defeated. The Philistine cheers turned to stunned silence as their champion lay lifeless. This epic showdown between the giant and the shepherd was not just a battle of physical might, but a testament to the power of faith and the belief that with God on your side, no challenge is insurmountable. It was a victory that would resonate through the ages, reminding us that even in the face of giants, one person's courage and faith can overcome even the most intimidating of challenges. But the story is far from over. The Philistine camp, once filled with confidence and cheers, now descended into chaos and panic. Their champion, Goliath, lay dead at the hands of David, and fear gripped their hearts. And so the Philistine soldiers scattered in disarray and began running for their lives. Meanwhile, the Israelite army, reinvigorated by the stunning turn of events, gave chase to the fleeing Philistines. The tables had turned, and the Israelites were filled with newfound hope and determination. With the Philistines retreating and the Israelites chasing them down, David was left alone. It was just him and the once mighty giant who now lay motionless on the ground, defeated. This was the perfect moment to solidify his victory. The Bible tells us, David ran and stood over the Philistine, took his sword and drew it out of its sheath and killed him and cut off his head with it. David's actions were symbolic. He used Goliath's own sword to sever his head, solidifying the defeat of the Philistines and ensuring their retreat. It was a decisive and dramatic moment that marked the end of an era of Philistine oppression and the beginning of a new chapter in Israel's history. But this story goes beyond the physical death of a mighty warrior. Within the towering giant of Goliath, we see him not merely as a physical giant, but as a representation of the fear and doubt that can loom large in our lives. David's victory over Goliath takes on a deeper meaning here, as it symbolizes his triumph over those internal giants that often hold us back. With unwavering faith in God, David's courage and resilience shine through. This story invites us to identify our own fears, doubts, or obstacles, and confront them with the same unwavering faith. The unexpected historical impact of this story lies not only in its historical context, but in its enduring message, a reminder that faith, courage, and the divine can enable us to conquer our inner giants and inspire lasting change in our own lives and in the world. If you enjoyed this tremendous underdog story of a mere boy who slayed a giant, you need to check out my other videos. Just click right here. I'll see you there.